Computer world craftwork here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting over 850 stations on Pacifica and NPR and Low Power FM and college and community radio stations, on public access TV and PBS TV stations, and both TV satellite networks on Dish Network Channel 9415 Free Speech TV, 9410 Link TV, on DirecTV Channel 375, and we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines also available in Spanish for any radio station to take, as over 250 are. Well, we're joined right now for more on this explosive WikiLeaks story, the largest release of government documents in U.S. history. We go to London, and we're joined by Democracy Now! Video stream by David Leigh, the investigations editor at The Guardian newspaper of London. He wrote a number of the articles on the Afghanistan war logs. The Guardian was one of 3 newspapers that WikiLeaks gave the documents to on the understanding that they would be published simultaneously. The Guardian of London, Der Spiegel in Germany, and the New York Times here in the United States. David Leigh, welcome to Democracy Now!
Hello.
It's good to have you with us. First, explain how you got a hold of the documents. When did WikiLeaks first approach you?
WikiLeaks didn't approach us. We approached them. We heard from all the publicity that Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, who I knew a little bit about, had got hold of a lot of rather explosive material. And so my colleague, Nick Davis, went and tracked him down in Brussels, buttonholed him in a cafe in Brussels, and spent 6 hours persuading him that he should let us see the material in advance of dumping the whole lot on the internet. In the end, it was agreed that us and the New York Times and Spiegel would all have the material under embargo, be able to analyze it, and put it out simultaneously.
Talk about the significance of these documents. What did you think? What were you most surprised by? What do you think is their greatest importance?
Their greatest importance is their unvarnished quality. Everything that's come out about this war has been filtered or spun. You know, it's been a very difficult war to report. It's been very chaotic. Many of the things that go on have gone on in remote districts that nobody's been covering the stuff. What reports come out are filtered, are garbled, are sanitized. So to see unsanitized snapshot reporting day by day, and sometimes indeed hour by hour, gives you the genuine flavor of what has occurred on the ground. And that's really important, because that's what the war is actually like.
Tell us the story of one man who you wrote about, one man who was deaf and mute and who was killed.
Yes, Shum Khan. This is one of the rather harrowing little stories that appears in these 92,000 entries. He lived in a very remote village, 7,000 feet up in the mountains near the border with Pakistan. A CIA paramilitary squad charged into the village. They were on some secret mission, I suppose, and he was frightened and he started to run away. They shouted at him to stop. He didn't stop because he couldn't hear them, but they didn't know that, so they shot him. And then afterwards, the village elders explained the mistake to them. So they fetched out some supplies. I don't know exactly what they were, probably rice and beans, that kind of thing, and handed them over as compensation, what they call salatia. And then the CIA paramilitary team carried on its way to whatever military mission it was doing. And that's a little story of an interaction between an ordinary disabled person and, a killer squad, probably.
And talk about how you feel that is emblematic of the stories you have read about, or particularly the issue of civilian casualties in the Afghan war.
The civilian casualties and the stories of them are the things that got to me most, actually. I'd heard a lot about the airstrikes. There's been so much controversy about airstrikes in which dozens or scores of civilians are alleged to have been killed, and then President Karzai has bitterly protested in public in the past about that. But what got to me, and what I'd not seen reported properly before, was incident after incident, day after day, in which troopers in patrols or on convoys just shot drivers or motorcyclists or passers-by because they were frightened that they might be suicide bombers. And so if they didn't give way to a convoy or they got too close, they just blasted them with machine guns. And then, of course, it would turn out they weren't bombers at all. They were sometimes just children who were passengers in cars, that kind of thing.
We're talking to David Leigh, who's the investigations editor at The Guardian. We're speaking to him in the Guardian newsroom, so you hear people in the background. He wrote a number of the articles on the Afghanistan war logs. Can you explain, David, the process that the 3 newspapers and WikiLeaks went through in dealing with the U.S. government before these documents were released?
I'll tell you exactly how it worked as far as we know from our end. The 3 newspapers got together and agreed that we were going to publish simultaneously. The New York Times said, we have to go to the White House in advance as a responsible American media organization and tell them about this and give them the opportunity to say what they have to say. And we agreed that they could do that. And they did last, I think, the Friday before we all published on the Sunday night, or maybe the Thursday. They went to White House, they told them all about it, and they took account of their responses. Seems to me that one of the things in the White House people's minds was about the danger to informants or troops. And they asked, apparently, what we'd already decided to do, which was to take out names of anybody who might be a local informant or collaborator who could suffer reprisals. We'd already decided to do that, and we all did that.
Actually, it's interesting because the White House praised the New York Times in how careful they were. And although Robert Gibbs, attacked the release, talking about the potential danger, it was actually, though repeated in a different way, he was careful about how he said it. He didn't just say this is about the danger of exposing people on the ground. He talked about the potential danger because they had worked with the New York Times in releasing these.
Well, I'll say it again. We'd already decided on Spiegel and on the New York Times and on The Guardian what we were going to do. And we were going to take out names that we thought might be in danger of reprisals. And we decided not to publish certain intelligence reports that described that kind of thing. So all those decisions were taken. So the White House was pushing in an open door when it said we don't want people to be endangered. So they're congratulating us for something we'd already decided to do.
Has Julian Assange withheld some number of the documents to do exactly that as well, redact them or protect sources?
Yes, as I understand it, that is the reason. He, too, agreed that it would be a good thing to redact anything that might endanger sources. And because he planned to publish the entire database, not just selected